Have we got Austin Alumbaugh online?
We've got Austin online,
too. We do. Here's the champion of the Wingless Auto Racing.
That's right. Austin Alumbaugh, the man of steel, joining us now on the show. Austin, how you doing, my friend?
Pretty good, guys. How are you all doing?
Well, we're doing pretty damn good.
Hey, did you bag that deer? You've been hunting this morning. Did you get the deer?
No, we passed up on one, and we're waiting on that big one to come out.
You're not still up in the tree, are you?
No, sir. I'm actually sitting in my truck right now.
Austin, you didn't call me sir, did you? We've known each other long enough better than that, right? Right? So, man, great year for you, Austin, with the Winged Auto Racing Series. Doing a lot of double duty. Let's talk about your season. You got to be pretty thrilled about winning that championship.
I tell you what, that was one of the deals. Going into it, it was like a shot in the dark. Ricky and I, we came together for this deal, and he told me he wanted to do it, and I was like, well, all right, let's do it. I'd ran one non-wing race prior to this season ever, and was out to lunch with the whole deal, not knowing what to expect. And we went out our first night in the car, hot laps is qualifying with the Wingless Auto Racing Series, which it's kind of fun because it throws a whole new element into it, and you got to be on your game from the word go the minute you get out of the trailer and at the track. But we went out. I think we qualified like 7th. I was like, well, we're decent, and it turned out to be one of them deals where going into the last night of racing, we knew that we had a really good shot of ending this deal on top, and pretty much all we had to do was start. And I mean, that feeling to know that what we had accomplished over that year and all the stuff I had learned as a driver was just ridiculous. I mean, I couldn't believe we had overcome that much.
Austin, let me ask you this. You talk about qualifying with the non-wing car, and you're a regular on the ASCS Warrior Region Trail. You finished 6th in points this year. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But let's first of all talk about qualifying versus the pill draw and passing points. Did you prefer the qualifying with the war guys, or are you more of a pill draw guy?
I love the qualifying. It's one of those things where you don't have to worry about another car or anything like that. You go out and you run as hard as you can, and you actually know where you stack up with the drawing and the passing points and everything with the ASCS series. It's one of the ones. Gary Wright said it best. You get screwed more than not just because of where you draw. And if you draw Austin, a second row spot, then you're good. But other than that, it's tough.
Hey, Austin, just a little news flash about Gary Wright. Huh? He did win 4 championships doing that pill draw. So I know he puts that out there. But I always try to remind him that you won 4 championships doing the pill draw. It just hadn't been working out for you. And unfortunately, we're not going to see Gary Wright anymore. Again, confirming on our broadcast last night that he's going to retire and never sit in a race car again. He says so. How would you assess the series itself? I know it's been a little tough for Tony Crank and those guys. I know he's had to take some money out of his own pocket. He's taken the chance to do this. Would you say it was a successful season? And if there was anything they could do to make it a little bit better, what would you recommend?
Well, as a driver and a car owner myself, the first thing out of anyone's mouth to a promoter is, what can I do to make it better? And it's always, well, throw more money at it. But realistically, with the economy we have, I couldn't find any complaints with the series. Granted, they were rookies too with this deal. They had a few mistakes throughout the year, and one mistake one night affected us and Mitchell Moore, who was with us right there in the points deal. And he goes, I've screwed up. I can't do anything about it. It's just the way it is. I apologize, and there's nothing we can do to fix it. And we're like, well, it is what it is, because it's just, it's the nature of the beast. You go back and redo everything again, then you just don't have 2 guys mad. You've got a whole field of cars mad. So,
hey, explain that a little further for people who don't know what's going on there.
Well, we had one night that they do a redraw. They take they line everybody up by the points that they accumulate through the night through their heat race and their qualifying, and then they do a redraw where they roll a dice to where they could invert up to 6 rows if they roll a 6. Well, the wrong person rolled the dice. It was supposed to be the point or the high point car for the night. Instead, it was the winner of the first heat race, which was just a confusion is all it was. And, if they would have re-rolled the dice, it would have put me and rolled what Mitchell rolled, just jokingly he rolled the dice. it would have put me on the pole, but instead it put me second row, and Mitchell was, I think, fifth row or something like that. So, I mean, it's just one of them things where there was a miscommunication in the pits, and they went ahead and had someone roll the dice, and the drivers, we weren't sure. We didn't know who was the high points car, and then they said, well, no, we go by the heat race winner. I mean, it's miscommunication, but with a rookie season like that, you're going to have that kind of stuff. I mean, there's a lot of things I did in the car this year that screwed up, and I mean, it's learning.
Right. Well, just got to learn and get through the bumps now. Are they committed? Do we know? We haven't had a chance to talk to Tony lately. Are they committed to continuing the series next year? Is that the plans?
Yep. I actually talked to him this past week, trying to find out everything. I know they're waiting until all the holidays get over with before they have our banquet for the year, and they were saying that they're trying to plan on having a tentative schedule for us whenever we show up for our awards banquet for the 2012 season. So they're already scheduling shows and getting everything ready to go for next year.
Hey,
I think I was going to say, don't you think it's important, though, that they don't book up against Valley Speedway if they can? Now, we don't know that Valley Speedway is even going to – maybe you might know more about this than us. But if Valley Speedway is going to continue to run that's where that class kind of originated from, it's important for Valley and War to work together so they don't book on top of each other, isn't it?
Right. It's important that they both work together, but I think also that both organizations, there's enough cars, and depending on where they book shows, then I mean there's enough cars in the area. We could support two deals if we had to. I mean, and granted, both of them are going to suffer a little bit, but at the same time, if you've got a track owner saying, well, I want these 3 dates, and two of them are booked against Valley Speedway, and they say, well, we can't do these two. He goes, well, then I don't want any. I mean, you're better to take the dates and have the races than say, well, we're not going to run because we're booked against them.
Yeah, well, my only issue with that is like earlier in the year when Double X raced up against Valley, I think only like 6 people showed up down there at
yeah,
Double X.
I think they had 12 cars in the pits that night down at Double X, and I think they had I want to say they had 14 or so at Green Valley that night, if I remember correctly. I mean, don't hold me to that.
Yeah, but typically, don't you guys have over 20 cars? Don't you? Really?
Yeah, we can. I mean, there's been nights where we've had 30 cars at the racetrack before.
So you had no issue with scheduling a date on the Friday night at Double X Speedway up against Valley at the last minute?
Well, and see, I didn't because the way it was set up, it wasn't quite as last minute as it was made out to be because everyone knew about it for about a month. It was on the schedule. Mm-hmm. And what the problem was, that was the example I was trying to make. Tony and Andy were talking with Kyle Wirtz at Double X Speedway, and Kyle wanted 3 dates. The 3 dates that he scheduled, he goes, I want these 3 nights. And they told him, so well, we're scheduling against Green Valley. Your car count's going to suffer, and it's going to cause a problem. He goes, well, if I can't get those 3 dates, then I don't want any of them. And this is what I've understood from the situation. I haven't heard this straight out of Kyle's mouth or anything like that.
Right.
But I mean, and as promoters, like for instance, Tony and Andy, they had to make a decision, and then Kyle has to make a decision too because he's pulling cars pulling cars and crowd from a completely different area down there. Because I think they had 2 or 3 from the St. Louis area show up, and to where some of them don't want to haul that far all the way to Kansas City. And I mean, you're caught between a rock and a hard place with that type of stuff. And I know they originally planned not to do everything they could to keep from scheduling against Valley. And I mean, it's the nature of the beast. It's like Knoxville scheduling a race on a Saturday night against, say, Peevely running with the World Outlaws. I mean, it's just, you got to do what you got to do.
That's amazing. A promoter would tell some, either you give me that date or you can't. We're not going to schedule any of it. I mean,
well, and see, I think a lot of it was they had a lot planned for that particular night, and the fan base that night was huge. I mean, it was like seeing a Jesse Huckett Memorial race down there. I mean, they had a ton of people there because they had so many different classes and had promoted it so well on the Double X Speedway side of things that I mean, they had to have the cars.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's the way it goes. I mean, you can sit and tell them, well, you should have done this, you should have done that, but I mean, it's one of those situations where we're not in their shoes, and I mean, I can't fault them for doing it. I know some can, but at the same time, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, Austin. Let's talk a little bit about your wing program. You obviously you've been running. Well, I know it's not the year that you want, 6th in points, but and no wins, and that's unusual for you. You're pretty successful driver when it comes to the ASCS Warrior region. Take us through that season, and did you run every race this year or not? Because there probably had to be a conflict there along the way somewhere.
Well, actually, we didn't really have any conflicts. Amazingly, I don't know how we didn't. But it was actually going to work out to where we could run the point series with the ASCS Warrior Region and run the War Series as well. But we got towards the end of the year, and I started tearing a lot of stuff up. We weren't running good in points, and just started looking at the big picture on things, and we decided to fold up and miss the last 2 races of the year to start regrouping for next year. But we've struggled these last 2 seasons with our wing program, and it's one of those deals where you can't figure out why. I mean, is it the driver? Is it the setup? Is it the cars? And we're trying to eliminate all the different aspects from where we were in 2010 when we were really good in 2010. And if we can get back to there, we'll be great. And we're getting everything back in line to get back in that general direction. We're going back to Triple X chassis, which I was always very successful with, and trying to get all our ducks in a row to hit it hard next year. We haven't really set in stone what we're going to do. I know we're for sure going to try and defend our 2012 championship with the War Series. And I don't know if I'm going to run all the ASCS Warrior Region races or if I'm going to play pick and choose and maybe run some races up at Knoxville. I always love going up and competing up there. Those guys are a lot of fun to race with. So we're going to bounce around probably, but I don't know. You never know. You might see that 33 car in a points race again next year.
How big of a challenge is that when you have 2 cars, like you have combo events with the non-wing and wing cars, and just fielding 2 cars out in competition the way it is? How big of a challenge is that from a driver's standpoint? Because these are 2 different kinds of cars. Yeah,
the driving standpoint of it was fairly easy on me this year because I could get out of one car and walk over and get right in the other car, and all you got to do is remember to flip that switch and say, okay, you're in a wing car now or a non-wing car now. But I've always had my own crew with the 33 car running the wing stuff, and Ricky Smith had guys come to help him this year, Tyler and Mike Key. And then if we were doing real good on one car and we had an issue with another, all of our guys would kind of group together as a team and take care of the issues. But as far as the driver's side of it, my girlfriend, Christy Hohenschel, she's been a racer for years. She knows how everything works and getting everything prepped and everything that goes into it, and she made things easy for me this year. I get out of one car, I take a helmet off, I set it down. The other one's already got tear-offs on it. I walk over, hop in that car, stick a helmet on, and I'm back out on the racetrack again. And we were real lucky just the way everything worked out for me this year. Or I was very lucky the way everything worked out for me this year.
Yeah, what's the plans for Christy? Is she going to run some more? I mean, she's still got her equipment. What's happening there?
No, they decided that they were going to stop running the 305 deal just because it was one of them deals where it wasn't benefiting them as much as they thought it would. And the 360 jump is such a huge financial step that they went ahead and sold everything out and got out from under it. And I got a feeling she might be in a Wing 360 a couple races next year. I hate to speculate who the owner might be, but I got a feeling she's going to be running a few shows next year.
Could we be talking to the owner?
There's a good chance you might be.
Well, she's a good racer, man. I really didn't pay much attention what had she done in her career until we started racing down there with Lauren Clem, and obviously she was one of the cars you had to beat if you were going to run up front. So she knows how to stand on it. She does a great job, and that's a pretty big loss for the 305 cars down there at L.A. to lose her because I think she was a huge asset to those guys. But definitely a hell of a racer in her own right, for sure.
Yeah, she is. I know when we all started back in the micro sprint days, it was, oh gosh, I'm trying to remember who all was down there with us. It was Christy and I, and then Jonathan Cornell, Ryan Schlender, Chris Walker, and a couple others. And we all kind of stair-stepped through the ranks together, and within a couple years of each other. And forever in the micro sprints, I was always chasing the back of that red 85 car. And I told him one night, I said, I'm so sick of seeing this tail tank that I got to do something about it. And because we were always chasing her in the micros, and then we jumped to the sprint cars. And luckily for me, I was in a position to have good friends that could direct me in the right direction as far as getting my setup program figured out and understanding what to do with the car. and what to expect, to where I had a little bit of the upper hand. Well, then they started getting faster and faster and faster, and now it's getting kind of interesting. There's a couple nights down there at the beginning of the year where we were running 305s, or I myself was running a 305 against Christy, and it's kind of turned into a grudge match situation, and it got a little heated. So it's probably best that we don't race against each other too terribly much, because we're both very competitive.
Right. Man, there's more girls driving sprint cars at L.A. Raceway than anywhere I know of in the country.
Yes, there is. There's a lot down there, and a lot of them are very, very talented drivers. It's one of those situations where you gotta know how to market yourself and how to promote yourself,
right.
and then have the equipment behind you to do it, and there's a lot to it. And then to throw the female aspect of it on top of that, you're always racing with a chip on your shoulder, because no one wants to think, well, she's good enough to beat me.
Right.
Well, you know what
we're looking forward to that 360. I know with Lauren, it should be a lot of fun, and we're putting a car together for her for next year, and she's going to run that 305. But we're hoping to run some Warrior races with her, so it should be a lot of fun.
I know the best way to market, and I think everybody would agree. Just go out and win, baby. You win in races, that'll carry the day.
Takes care of itself. Well, Austin, thanks so much for being on the show with us, man. Congratulations on winning the championship. I know you guys have worked really hard at getting that car to where it is, and hopefully you can defend that championship in 2012. And by the way, if you need a place to go race once in a while to get your wing fixed, we'll take you out on the national tour when we're around your area. So we'd like to have you.
Ooh. I'd love to be able to go out and do it, but I'm carless right now. I got rid of all the cars, and I'm waiting to get the new ones. So we're sitting here with motors and rear ends and wheels and front ends. So we got some work to do to get ready before we're ready for that.
Well, congratulations.
What kind of frames you getting, first of all? I want to know.
Oh, we're going to switch to the Triple X chassis. We were real good on those before, and we jumped around and went different directions and decided to come back to that, because why change something that's not broke?
Yeah. Well, Brady Bacon's ran pretty good in a non-wing Triple X car before.
Yeah. So. Brady's ran real well with everything he's done, and hopefully we can.
Then there's that, right?
Yeah, then there's that.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Is War scheduled a banquet to honor your championship?
January 26th.
All right.
That'd be great.
Well, good. All right. Well, Champ, we're just going to call you Champ from here on out, Austin. not the Man of Steel. We'll just call you. Was this your first championship? No?
Yes, sir, it was.
Oh, that's great, man. Everybody wants to get one. I finished second I don't know how many times, and I never did win a championship. I know that means a lot to get your first. So congratulations, Austin. Thanks so much. Go get him next year, my friend.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate you having me on the show.
Thank you, Austin.
You bet.
Congratulations. And, of course, to Rick Smith and all the folks who make that happen. It takes more than just the driver. It takes everybody together, from car owner to team members, to win a championship. I know everybody focuses in on the driver, but it's a team effort when you win championships, isn't it, Scott?